Hello everybody, thank you so much for attending the next community safety meeting. I know we used to have it more regularly, but unfortunately after COVID we've just taken a little bit longer to warm up, so hopefully we will be having it more frequently. So I am Raheel Siddiqui. I'm the chair of Be Safe, Feel Safe. We set up in 2019 after our house got burgled, and it was a bit of a shocker, but it has led to something really good. It has revolutionized how we residents take control of safety in our house and how we come together more closely with the officials, you know, the MPs, the police, the councillors, the council, and make sure that our voices are heard, our concerns are heard, and we ourselves take control of our safety. So again, welcome. I've just put down some links. So we do have a website, Be Safe, Feel Safe. There's a lot of information with regards to safety, also names of the PCSOs, which I'll bring up in a moment. You can also follow us on Twitter and all the usual social media, the Facebooks. You can join our WhatsApp group. For that, if you let Ash over here know, she can put you through, get your number and all that. Right, okay, so housekeeping, fire exits, there are two at the back over there, so hopefully we won't be needing it. I don't think there are any alarms that are due to be ringing. Yeah, Rob, do we have any alarms that are meant to be going on?
No alarms.
No, alright, so we shouldn't have any alarms, but if we do, we need to exit from there. Toilets. Actually, I don't know.
Out and to the right, there's two other toilets, a disabled toilet and a full-use toilet.
Alright, okay. And we have tea and coffee being manned by Shanaz, our secretary. So if you would like to have some, and there are biscuits as well, please feel free. Right, so just before we begin to introduce you to our committee, here we are missing one person because he didn't want his photograph on the website. So I'm the chair, Shanaz, who's manning the drinks over there, she's our secretary. Ash at the back, who is doing your registrations, she is our treasurer. We finally have some money so we can actually spend it on safety kits and stuff for yourselves. Dr. Amir, he isn't with us. He's celebrating his wife's 50th, so he couldn't join us. Caroline is there. She is taking the minutes and will also be manning all the safety kit distribution. We've got Rob, our councillor, one of our recent joinings in the committee, and we're really happy to have you with us. Very committed and enthusiastic. Eleanor, she again is out of the country. She's one of our founder teams. And Brady on the camera, who's also my husband, and he goes through all my stuff. I'm always doing stuff, and he's always backing me, so I'm really proud of him. All right, so just to set the agenda, what we do always at the start of every meeting is recap what we did in the previous meetings. So typically what we have is a set of actions that we give the officials because the community has concerns and they may not have the answers straight off. So we take away some actions and we revisit them at the next meeting. So we will start with that. Maybe we still don't have answers, but we keep asking. So we'll begin with Sir Graham Brady, and he does have to leave at 12:30. So we will begin with him. If anybody has questions for Graham, please do ask them now rather than keeping them for the end. We will then have a police update from our South Trafford Inspector, Stephen Bryant. He's here with us today and he'll give you a walkthrough of what the police are doing. There have already been a set of questions we had asked the community to put forward. So we do have a list. What I've done is I've split it. So we'll ask some of the questions after Steve's talk, and then we'll ask the remaining at the end along with any other questions you might have. We then have a council update. Lindsay is here with us. We have some questions that were raised which touch on the council side, so it's best to ask the council. Councillor Rob Duncan will be coming and giving us a talk about what he's doing in his area with regards to safety, and we have some councillors with us. So what would be nice is to bring them to the panel and just ask them questions about, you know, what are the kind of things they're involved with in their ward. Finally, a neighbourhood watch scheme, how do you set it up? And I've actually literally just set one up again once we moved house for my area. So it's a really quick to-do, you know, checklist. This is what you do to help you all set it up. And of course, we then have ample time for Q&As. We want you all to have a lot of opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, and at the end. Right, so quickly recapping. Now, from the policing side, and this is a question that has come up again, so we will push that to the Q&A discussion round. We were told that there will be 20,000 police force all across the UK. A small proportion of them will be for the South Trafford. We'd like to know what's happening about that, because it was a to-do, it was a takeaway, and we just want to know what's happening there. Also, there was a district task team that was specifically now looking into burglaries and responses, so it'd be nice to know what are the plans that the police has around this area. So Sir Graham Brady, when we attended the last meeting, we were talking about tougher sentencing, and we just want to know what's happening in that space. Also, the reporting of crimes. I know there is some system kind of issue with the police for some years, but it has been long-standing. Again, this is a question that has been raised. So we just want to know, as an MP, what you can do to help and support the police and the community to start getting those feeds again. Helen is not present, but Lindsay is. So we had touched upon CCTV, sort of wireless CCTVs in Trafford, so it would be nice to know what's happening, because that was approximately 18 months, and I think we're pretty close to 18 months now. And also there was just a little action for us. If we see anything suspicious, we can also contact Crime Stoppers. Finally, this was from the meeting that Graham was with us. So Gwyneth Bellman had attended. She's a Justice of Peace, and she had raised some really important points that we were not aware of. So I thought it would be nice for the new attendees to just get a glimpse of it. So what she said is that most crime cases start and end in the magistrate's court, and only 5% crime is reported on the news. So we see a lot of action at the back which we don't get to know of. And sometimes it may feel like a criminal has walked away free, but they are doing very, very tough community service, which actually is worse than being in prison. I can see some disagreement there. We can bring it up in the Q&A. But yes, this is what we were told. Okay, so now just from our side, what we used to do is we used to present stats based on what we were, the kind of feeds we were getting on our WhatsApp group. So we used to have like graphs showing whether there's been a spike between the last meeting and the next meeting. But what we have seen is actually a drop in the number of reports that we are getting on the WhatsApp. That doesn't mean crime is not happening. That doesn't mean burglaries are not happening. From a Be Safe perspective, what we're seeing is a shift from a lot of house burglary alerts to more suspicious activity and carjacking alerts. So we're seeing a lot more of cars being stolen and, you know, suspicious people visiting houses. So we're seeing a lot more of that. What has happened recently is on the 23rd of November, we had an inaugural meeting where Traffic Police has taken the initiative to revive the Independent Advisory Group, or IAG. We have our interim chair over here, Joe Nicholson. I'm also in the group with Joe. People who are interested, please do let me know, because Traffic Police is looking at about 5-6 more volunteers. Yeah, so it's our chance to contribute to how we want policing to happen in Trafford. Like I said, we got some money thanks to the council. So what we have done with that is we purchased some safety kits, which are available over here. So when you are leaving or whenever you want really, but I guess in the end, if you could collect whatever you want, it's all free. And finally, I met with the North Neighbourhood Sergeant Leanne Kennedy. She's a lovely, lovely officer, and she is very keen to revive the Trafford Neighbourhood Watch Scheme. I am the Trafford-wide coordinator, so but I did mention that it's been very quiet and we've not been receiving police feeds, so how do we distribute it? So that's something we're looking at reviving. This is a quick, maybe if somebody wants to take a picture to know who their local PCSOs are. Here's the list because we keep getting asked this question, but it's also available on our website in the security blogs section. So we have our local PCSO from Brady.
Yeah, I'm PC would be officer for Brady, which is not on there, but I'm the only one for Brady, so if you need me, I can be on this.
We might need you. At home, we might need you. Alright, fantastic, okay. Like I said, safety items, so we've got, just to let you know what's there, we've got two different kinds of personal alarms, the wristwatch, if somebody wants to wear it. We've got the other one which you can use as a keychain, and you literally just pull that top off and it gives a really bad screeching noise, enough for you to run. Yeah. So those two personal alarms, we've got Faraday pouches for anyone driving keyless cars, which is something we wanted to talk to you about. We've got card signal blockers, you can put it in your wallet so it's not transmitting any signals. And we've got some reflective armbands, a few of them actually, and some cycle sports. Okay, so over to Graham Brady. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Rahel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here supporting this initiative. It was how many years ago you started it up? About 3 years ago. So then we had all of the COVID lockdowns, and much harder to keep things going. So I think all credit to you for making sure that it carried on and you've been able to grow the activities of Be Safe, Feel Safe. It said on there 15 minutes for this. I promise you I'm not going to speak for 15 minutes. So if you've got any questions, do please throw them at me. I think it is worth saying one of the, I think, really positive things we've had is the new Chief Constable in Greater Manchester Police. And Greater Manchester Police have been going through difficulties, have gone into special measures, maybe a few weeks ago, I think, came out of special measures, things moving in the right direction. So it's not just more police officers, it's a better run police force, and I think a better focus on the things that probably most of us would quite like the police to be concentrating on. And when I went to meet the new Chief Constable, it was music to my ears when he said that he really wanted the Greater Manchester police officers to be focusing on catching criminals rather than on catching people who maybe use the misgender somebody or whatever it might be. So I think with a better focus on dealing with crime, tackling, you've seen the task force working on burglary, probably the crimes that really affect people most in their lives. So I think that's a really positive sign out of special measures, and hopefully that improvement is going to continue into the future. It's an opportunity as well. There was a rumour, it's amazing how quickly rumours spread now, partly through social media I think, but there was a rumour that broke out about a week ago that the Britannia Ashley Hotel in Hale Village was going to be home to 150 young Albanian men. And I heard about this from so many people who were very worried that there were going to be crime and safety implications for that. Got in touch with the Chief Executive of the Council, who looked into it, got back to me, assured me that it isn't true. So there are other hotels around Greater Manchester where that is happening, but apparently not in Hale Village. So I'm just saying that to do the opposite of spreading a rumour, to tell you so that when somebody says to you, have you heard, you can say, well, the Chief Executive of Trafford Council says it's not true. So let's just make sure it isn't the case. And I think the two other things I was going to say. One, you probably are aware, there's a by-election going on in Stratford and Urmston, and that's because my colleague who was the MP there has stepped down, Kate Green, but she is now taking over from Beverly Hughes as the Deputy Mayor for policing. So this, in the structure of things, in Greater Manchester, the Mayor is also the Police and Crime Commissioner, and that role really is delegated to a Deputy Mayor. Now, I'll say this as politely as I can. The last time we met, I tried very hard to get Beverly Hughes, who was then the Police and Crime Commissioner and Deputy Mayor, effectively, to come to the meeting. I just couldn't get her to come to the meeting. I think now that Kate Green has taken over, I think we should try again and see if we can get her to come. Because that is, it's not day-to-day control of policing, but is the oversight of Greater Manchester Police. And I hope she'll be prepared to engage in public and hear directly what people's concerns are. The final thing I'll say, Rahel, was the point about sentencing. I think, more or less, I think the sentencing provisions are there in legislation. The problems, and I suspect that the police officers present might share the frustration of this, because I've spoken to many over the years who have. Very often, the problem is that the sentences that are available to the courts aren't used. And you get offences which are quite serious offences, which you would think would result in a custodial sentence, or certainly some top end of the community sentences that you've been talking about, and they don't. And I know there's nothing more frustrating for a police officer than having actually gone out and caught a criminal, a persistent burglar, say, and putting the evidence forward and getting the Crown Prosecution Service either then saying, oh, we don't think there's enough to prosecute, or the whole thing then goes to court, and the courts don't put somebody away or don't use the sentences that are available to them. So I think part of it, we just need to put more pressure on everybody, make it clear this is a public expectation. These are very serious crimes that have very serious effect on people's lives, their self-confidence, how comfortable they feel in their own homes. And we do expect those sentences to be used. So, any questions I'm happy to take. Otherwise, you can get on and hear from the people who you actually want to hear from.
So we had a couple of discussion topics for yourself. So we are seeing that obviously there's an increase in crime on keyless cars. Now, as residents, of course, we can do all this, you know, Faraday pouches, go buy it for a $5 from Amazon. You can do that. But what we don't understand is why the car manufacturers, one, can't improve their technology so it doesn't happen, one. Two, when they actually handing the keys of a car that's like, you know, what, 70,000, 80,000 pounds or something, why can't they just hand a Faraday pouch as well and instruct the owners to actually put their keys there? Because, I mean, very recently my sister bought a keyless car, and when she brought it home, the first thing I said was, where do you keep your keys? And she was like, oh, wherever. And I was like, do you not actually keep it in a Faraday pouch? And she was like, why? And so there still isn't that awareness amongst people buying keyless cars that this is a recipe for disaster. You're inviting burglars to steal your vehicle. So I obviously did tell her what to do when she purchased it, but why can't the car manufacturers, one, improve their technology, and two, in the meantime and always, just hand out a Faraday pouch? So what can you as an MP do to influence this sector?
Yeah, thank you for that. And not everybody likes to do what I do. My approach to this is to drive such an old car that I'm confident that we're trying to steal it. Sometimes I come out of the house in the morning and I hope that somebody's taken it. It's not happening. But I think you make a very good point. I've just made a note. It seems like a basic common sense thing that could be done very easily. As you say, if you're spending £70,000 on a car, I assume the pouch costs a few quid, and it would be a very simple thing to do. So I think what I'll do is write to the Home Office, ask why. I mean, whether it's probably not a statutory thing, it's probably a matter of guidelines or a campaign encouraging. But it does seem obvious, and I can't see why they don't do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of people still don't know how easy it is to, you know, kind of get the signals and steal. And Steve told us some really interesting points about it, which I'm sure Steve can tell us about, on the crime side, how it's classed as a crime and not as a crime. But for us, the car's gone.
Yeah.
So, you know.
The one thing I forgot to come on to, you also said, why did they not do more on technology? And I think the answer probably is just that it's an arms race. It's like cyber crime as well. Yes, people are doing things, they're putting things in place to try to stop it. But there are some very smart people working on the other side to get around the technological improvements. So it's just going to be a constant battle. But the simple workaround of putting the key in a fob if it stops somebody copying it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that should be a given. They just hand it with a family pouch. It's a given. Right, there was the policing numbers for South Trafford. I don't know whether, Graham, you want to take it or Steve, you do, but the question really is, how many did South Trafford actually get at the end of the 20,000?
In terms of policing numbers, Trafford sees an overall 6% of Greater Manchester's crime. So the way in which the Chief Constable deals with the resourcing is we get 6% of the actual establishment in terms of the overall force. So all the numbers are aligned directly to the number of crimes that are recorded in Trafford. And that goes back to what you mentioned about reporting crimes and making sure that we are told about incidents, because very often in my job I'm told about WhatsApp groups reporting things and they don't actually convert as crimes. So I think in this area to some degree we under-report, we're almost too polite culturally in South Trafford, therefore we are impacted by slightly reduced policing numbers. That's my impression having been in this seat for sort of 15 months. I think going back to your original slide where we talked about 300 extra officers for Greater Manchester, I can say the Chief's been very ambitious and we've actually looked to stretch to 1,300 additional officers by April, which is 1,000 additional officers than what was talked about just over a year ago. In reality, there are people going outside the sector. There's people leaving the police and there's people retiring at different times, but basically the numbers, the overall establishment for the force is up and it's back to where it was sort of 10-12 years ago.
Okay, that's good. And I think we can touch on it again perhaps, but it's good to know that we do have more than was originally planned, which is good. Yeah. Okay. There was a point, Graham, if you remember when you last visited, around youth and tackling antisocial behaviour, and I know Rob's doing a lot of work in that area. So is there any, South Trafford-wide plan to invest more in youth engagement centres and, getting more funding in that area?
I think the councillors present would probably not unreasonably say funding is a big problem. And I think an awful lot of this is coming down to voluntary groups, community sports clubs. We've got some really fantastic sports clubs which have huge numbers of young people involved in them. And I just think it's going to be one of those things where for quite a long time we're likely to have quite tight funding nationally and locally. So it's where community effort is going to be a huge help. Obviously the community policing is also vitally important, but it's so much better, isn't it, if you can make sure that people have got somewhere else to be and don't get into mischief in the first place. Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a question over there?
We have liaised previously, you might not know me visually. My name's Paula Allen. My son Marcus was killed on George Rich's Way. Going back to the youth engagement side of it, the council saying they've got no money. Steve knows the issues that we faced, taking things forward with the council. The last meeting we had, they didn't even engage with Steve. So what can you give to the community? We've had over 400 people within Greater Manchester attend the hospitals through knife crime, which is rising. We've had 65 deaths in Greater Manchester in the last year alone on our roads. So where we've previously been quite safe down here, we're seeing crime infiltrating our area. So when you say to us, as our local MP, well, it's down to the council, we know they've not got a pot to piss in, excuse the phrasing, but that isn't good enough. It's not going to bring my son back. It's not going to help his friends and family. It's not going to help the families of Kenny in Stretford who've got a young son who's dead. Rico Burton. This isn't just something which is in city centre. It's coming out.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why I think the change in sentencing powers was really important.
Yeah, you did have
the people who are found carrying knives, especially if it's more than once, they should be facing very serious penalties. And that's got to be what all of the, it's mostly youngsters, all of the youngsters have got to know, that there is a serious downside to doing it. We all know the trouble with this is that a lot of kids think that if they carry a knife, it makes them safer. The truth is the opposite. And we've just got to get people to the point that they understand the downside necessarily outweighs any perceived benefit that it might bring them. So the sentencing powers was important. I think getting the message across to youngsters in schools is really important. I know Altering Boys, I saw they had a talk last week on this. It was the Yusuf Mackey Foundation, I think, that went in there.
I spoke, sorry for interrupting, I did this year as part of the Safe Drive Stay Alive campaign at Middleton Arena.
Yeah.
The problem I found with a lot of these is we're seeing 11-year-olds running around feral on the streets. If they're running around on an e-scooter carrying a knife at 11, 12, then there's no deterrent at all by the time they're 14, 15 for going in cars, stolen cars, joyriding. But in the meantime, we're having, excuse me, he's quite passionate, these kids are getting picked up along the way by well-meaning departments within the council, giving them nice holidays and helping the families out. When it is, family tends to be interridden with the crime anyway. They're not going to get away from that. By the time they're 22, they should have been in jail for some of the offences a long time ago, but they're not. They're in cars now.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and I think the point I made earlier about sentencing powers being there, they've also got to be used. I think particularly when it comes down to knife crime and the serious risk to people from those kind of weapons, the courts have got to take it as seriously as the rest of us do. And they've got to understand there are times when just getting somebody off the streets, if there's somebody who's in the habit of carrying a knife, might be the best thing to do. I think most of us would buy into the idea that it's so much better, isn't it, if you can pick people up and help turn their lives around. And you look at things like, I don't know, Timpson's cobblers who take on former prisoners, and they have a very good record, giving them a job, giving them hope. Yes, of course, that's the best thing if you can do that. But we also need to know that if people are in the habit of carrying an offensive weapon, we'd really rather they were in prison, not walking the streets.
Can I also just pick up a couple of those points that you raised there? So, in terms of knife crime, I've attended a number of scenes. I was there. I was a bronze commander for the Mayor of West murder last year. I was also a welfare support officer for the 42 police officers that attended the incident at Goose Green. So I've really sort of driven and supported officers as well as the public around these incidents. Again, the Chief's very ambitious. He's just set up what we call a violence reduction team. They've been recruited as a specialist team that will go live next month. That's a 3-year Home Office funded plan for Greater Manchester Police. That's in addition to what we've normally got. That team's now got a very dynamic inspector that I've worked with who I know is going to drive some really positive results all around the force. So I'm really excited to see how they perform. In terms of the youngsters that we deal with, one of the great difficulties is dealing with knives at schools. Certainly in the last 12-15 months, I've had challenges speaking to schools, getting into schools, but we seem to have turned that tide. We keep banging on the front door, and eventually some of the schools are letting us in, and some of these conversations and encounters are becoming really, really positive. We've now got a dialogue with schools, which is really, really important. I know Lindsay's community safety team, they do some fantastic work with mentoring. So we've got a number of cases I can think of, because I see most of the jobs, where we've got young people that are engaging with professionals positively, which will turn them around. And then there are other people where I say, no, that support's not available, that's straight to court. You know, so we do try and filter out those that really do need the support and others that need quite a firm punishment, and it's people like me that will make that decision. You also mentioned road safety, and I know we've engaged in relation to your son's incidents, and again, that's a background I've got a background in road safety. I'm very passionate about that. What I can say around road safety is, again, the Chief's very ambitious. He's doubled the size of the roads policing unit, which is brilliant. I've been talking to them, and I've also been, as part of their tactical support, aware of other things that are going on in and around Greater Manchester. So you've got twice as likely chance to get stopped in a motor car than you would have done last year, which I think is good news, and good news for the road to South Trafford. Yeah.
Could I just ask a question on the point of knives? You deal with the issues that you face in the streets. Do all those get reported back up to the courts so that they can see the real volume? Not everything goes to court, of course, but do they actually get the statistics to be able to make decisions about imposing stricter penalties?
Most cases are on an as reported basis. So when you have one incident, obviously generally that incident and the evidence around that incident is reported as a single case. In some cases there are backgrounds, so where we've got current operations after Kenny Carter's murder, which is what we call Op Swift. So there's a whole operational plan around sort of patrolling areas of North Trafford. Within that, then, where we get incidents and cases going to court, we provide evidence of what has been going on to court to give that background information. In some cases, we can't just give a data summary of what else, you know, leads to that to influence sentencing. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, I'm concerned that the courts, as you said, are not imposing the right level of sentences. And part of that is the communication in to make sure that they really get the message, is the point I'm trying to make. And that will be down to statistics. It may not necessarily be that a case goes to court because it's not being perceived to be serious enough, you know what I'm saying? But just the fact that you found a child in a school with a knife, will that go to a court as a statistic? They may not have used the knife, but the fact that they're carrying a knife. And that then sort of makes you think, are the numbers greater than we really see? And is that reported up? So that the courts can be more aggressive in the way that they make the sentencing when people do come before them.
I think in general terms, you know, the Chief Constable will hold meetings with the local courts, you know, judges, magistrates. There's a level, you know, at the top end of the force that will feed data in. You know, in terms of the court process, I've been to court a number of times. You know, a very simple case can take a whole day. So if you start then applying data to that, and then analysis of that data, and then challenging data, those cases could end up taking weeks. So it's how, you know, at a very strategic level, the Chief will talk to those in the area. There are times when we will appeal. You know, we'll talk about, you know, this certain case that we're not happy with that sentence, and we'll appeal it. I've done that a couple of times in my career. And then there's other times where, unfortunately, the level of sensitivity for certain things becomes an emotive subject, so it's more important to some people than others. But it's finding that sweet point, and I think at the moment, what we all feel is we're not there, we're a bit below that sweet point. So I take your point on, but again, that's a pressure from other people to really, you know, affect those and making those decisions and making those judgments, and in particular for sentencing, to bring that bar up a little bit, because I think we all feel the same problem. Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is it's more a Home Office sort of level of discussion, isn't it? National statistics, they probably take it to account at the Home Office level and pass that down to the judiciary. Yeah. So I think that's the point you're making is not on the individual case or a policing basis, it's more the policy from a Home Office point of view, strategic point of view. Yeah, so as long as that's being fed back and the statistics show that, then the judiciary should basically be having privy to that and understanding what is causing crime and are they following equivalent to that. So yeah, I think that's more of a...
Absolutely, and certainly on a local level, you know, in my time in this seat, I'm not sort of NFA, you know, no further action, any job with involving a knife. You know, it's very much a case of, I believe in, you know, seeking out some sort of justice in relation to those types of offences. So, you know, we all have guidance from the MPCC, you know, and there's guidance to the judiciary as well. And I just think they just need to lift their sentencing bar as high as they possibly can. You know, that way, that may well protect more and more people. But that's a real challenge, you know, because, you know, nationally, you know, those numbers are what they are, you know, and the incidence of us stopping people is slightly up, but that's because we're looking for them harder. I'm not saying there's more knives on the streets, but just looking harder and we're more effective at finding them.
Right, thank you so much. We can have a few more questions which are related with the policing a bit later. We'll have plenty of opportunities. So Graham Brady needs to leave. If there's any burning question, there's one last one, but it has to be for Sir Graham.
Hi, yeah, so it was about the funding. It was like, for example, this is what I don't really understand, like, if you actually fund people, like young people, get them out of the streets, into youth zones, something, youth clubs, stuff like that, scouts, for example, stuff like that, that would actually reduce the budget the police need to actually hit the crime. Because if you, for example, if that child is off the street, let's say it takes £1 to go to a youth zone or her, how much does it cost for the actual investigation of the crime, going to court, all this cost is, again, it's like that's that much, this is this much. It's like a little bit of funding to boost youth zones and things like that would.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's perfectly reasonable point, obviously, and those are the balances that have to be struck by the council, struck by national government. You know, I guess if you look at what's happened over the last couple of years, I think the fact, you know, we spent £400 billion on supporting people through COVID lockdowns. Well, some of us think we locked down too much and said so at the time. It's one of the things that's created a really significant problem in the public finances. We've also got inflation, because that came when you lock things down around the world and then let them open up. The inflation started again. So there are a lot of very difficult financial decisions to be taken to strike a balance on that. But basic principle, yes, prevention is obviously better than cure, and it's true across huge swathes of what the government does. You said the same about the defence budget. You know, spend on a proper defence of the country, it's far less likely that you end up with somebody trying to invade or causing other problems for you. So, but you can say it on almost everything, and there is a finite amount of money. Basic principle is absolutely right. I could.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Graham, and lovely to have you with us. Thank you. All right. So, moving on. I promise we will have plenty of time for questions. We don't have Chief Inspector Shoaib Chaudhry. He had mentioned he might be able to come, but we do have our Trafford Inspector Steve Bryant over here with us, and I will pass it over to you. Do you want to?
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for coming. It's great to see you all down here. So it's not great on the screen, so I do apologise what we have. So in terms of where we've been in the last sort of 15-16 months, obviously we've got a new Chief Constable. I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a number of occasions, and what's changed is we've got a very, very clear plan. And if ever you want to Google it and have a look at what the plan is, it's what we call the plan on a page, GMP plan on a page. It's available on the internet if you want to look at it. But very, very simply, it breaks down all of the main changes that we've had in the last 15 months into one very, very simple place. And everything that I've done, I've completely aligned my staff and my vision and my mindset to this plan. You know, and I do believe you wake up in the morning, you've got a plan for your day. You know, your day's probably a little bit better than having no plan at all. So that basically has underpinned a lot of the changes. And in 5 sort of key areas really, how we respond to incidents and emergencies. You know, we're now much quicker at arriving at grade 1 incidents within 15 minutes, grade 2 incidents within an hour, much quicker. And certainly my role sort of covering the response role as well as Neighbourhood. I know we do that really, really well here in Trafford, one of the best in Greater Manchester. We also investigate and solve crime better than we were sort of 15, 18 months ago. Part of the problem previously was the computer system. You're all possibly aware we suddenly found a lot of crimes sitting in the system. Here in Trafford we've got about 2,100 live crimes that we're looking at the moment for the staff. We also, so in our role, prevent and reduce crime, harm and antisocial behaviour, and I'll give you some data on that shortly. We try our best to deliver an outstanding service, and like today, we try to build public trust and confidence with our communities, and also ourselves as well. You know, because we've got to believe in each other and work with each other, and that's really, really important. So, specific for my world, for the community world, and this is taken from that plan, the sort of three key areas really of how we strengthen our dedicated neighbourhood teams. That's making sure they've got the resources, the decision-making powers, local knowledge and a focus on partnership-based problem solving. We're really lucky, we've got Lindsay who works in our office within our team. Lindsay is one of our community safety officers from the council. Having Lindsay there is really reassuring for me. It gives me another set of eyes, another perspective. It's really, really important, and it shows that direct problem sort of partner approach that we've got locally. We also help to build resilient communities, and we do that through encouraging people to join the IAG, you know, and scrutinise what we do and how we do it. I'm attending PAC meetings and community meetings, and also having discussions with councillors and other elected members. And we do that supported by specialist capabilities. I've previously worked in Spec Ops. It's been brilliant over the last sort of few months to be able to engage them at the Ultram interchange. You might have seen travel safe officers, transport unit officers. We've also had a traffic operation a few weeks ago when we had 16 cars out on patrol up and down Washway Road, where we got over 200 offences in a few hours of directed patrolling. So we are doing that plan, that is what we work towards. In the last 12 months, the data's slightly out now, but it sort of gives you a bit of an oversight in terms of what comes through the front door, as it were. There's roughly 12,000 incidents a year in South Trafford. That's this part of Trafford. It's 1,000 a month. It's a very, very small team. We see about 25–30% of those incidents locally. Most of those are done by a massive command centre now that will take crime reports over the phone, online, through web chat. The whole force contact now has been revolutionised by the chief. So a lot of the inquiry type work is picked up by inquiry specialists, which means cops can be cops and go to incidents and crimes, which I think is a really, really good thing. Overall, the role of a neighbourhood inspector is to try and reduce demand in our area. And we've done that in the backdrop of different ways in which people can contact us, phone, email, online, different ways in which you can tell us things. And we've seen a massive increase because we've become more accessible. And we've kept a sort of lid on it in the last 12 months after lockdown. We've kept the numbers about static at roughly those 12,000 incidents. Significantly, I know we were talking about ASB earlier, we've seen a 35% reduction in ASB in the area, which I think is something to be proud of, and that's something that hopefully directed patrolling through the South Neighbourhood officers has really, really helped to see that change. We've seen about 251 less victims of crime in South Trafford, again, which I think is a good thing. We've got more repeat offenders that we're detecting. We know who we're looking for. We know who to sort of bring in and put these crimes to. And we've got less repeat victims of crime, because we're focusing on where we need to focus our resources and make sure they're kept safe. In terms of what we would call neighbourhood crime data, and that's the four sort of key categories of crime, that's burglary, robbery, theft from the person, and vehicle crime. I've got some numbers off what we call our weekly report. Our rolling average is roughly 54 crimes a week of those four categories. That's the lowest rate in Greater Manchester, which keeps me feeling safe. I also live in South Trafford, so that's a really, really good statistic. In terms of our burglary rolling average, in my area, burglary is my highest crime recorded, about 130, 140 in the last 3 months. About 20 a week across Trafford. We're the second lowest in Greater Manchester, but most of those offences are in this area. For robbery, we have an average of 4 a week across Trafford. That's the lowest in Greater Manchester. Theft from the person, 4 a week, again, the joint lowest in Greater Manchester. And for vehicle crime, that's all vehicle crime, 26 a week, the joint lowest in Greater Manchester. So we're all concerned, we all want a safer place, but Trafford is the safest place in Greater Manchester at the moment. In terms of outcomes, we see roughly an 8% solved outcome across all crime types, which again is comparable to a part of Greater Manchester. We're no better, we're no worse, it's an average. But that's a much improved place from where we were sort of 18 months ago, when we're down at sort of 2.5–3%. It's a massive change, a massive increase. So in terms of how we try to prioritise, we have a plan. So we've got the big plan, we have the little localised plan. And that contains our local problem-solving initiatives. So I mentioned the interchange earlier, Oldham Interchange and problem forming. The retail part, Broadheath retail part, we see ASB, we see some traffic concerns there, and we also see shoplifting in the area. Like with the Trafford Centre, you know, it attracts people to go there and commit these types of offences. By having a plan and prioritising, it gives me the ability to make sure my staff are tasked more efficiently. We can engage with you through social media. We use Twitter and we use Facebook, and we've got one of the most active engagements with our local communities on our accounts. More people like and comment on our account than anywhere else in the force, which is really, really pleasing for me. In terms of reported incidents, one of the easiest ways outside of ringing us up and down in 999 is do it online. You can report most types of incidents. Pretty much everything is on the system. It's the easiest way to sit there over a cup of tea and really write down and report what you want to do. It saves you sitting on the phone if you don't need to do it, if it doesn't need us being there here and now. It's the easiest and quickest way to do it. You get a reference number, and then somebody will be in touch in relation to that incident. And that's all types of incidents. So in terms of the future, as of the 6th of March next year, we've got a new neighbourhood model that we're bringing in. That's a slight shift in how we're going to work across South Trafford, which again should give us more coverage, and that will be aligned with a new response model, which will hopefully mean most incidents be responded to even better than they are now, which again is an improvement. That the neighbourhood roles will see a professionalisation, in that I mentioned before, I'm an ex-traffic officer, so I've got to do certain things to do that, driving courses and different skills and abilities. We're doing the same in neighbourhood roles, you know, problem solving, community engagement. There's a professional accreditation for the officers that be working on the team. We're already holding a number of partner communities meetings. We've got one today, we've run a few more at the hub and other locations, and we'll do that again into the new year. We're trying to find improved methods of supporting victims. We've got support officers who look for repeat victims and work out how we can work through and support people much better. Developing more focused offender management. That means we know who we want to go for. We go out and people like Sergeant Mitchell and the team will go and kick the door in. And recently in Broadheath we recovered about £80,000 worth of drugs after a raid, and we publicise that on social media, bags and bags of drugs. So we know what's going on, and we'll kick the door in and we'll go and deal with it. And again, the Chief wants to make sure that staff and officers are well equipped to do their jobs. That means having newer cars, a new fleet of vehicles, and also a new uniform that's being rolled out at the moment. So, people sometimes ask me how you can get in touch. There's an email address you can contact the team on if you want to take that down. That's the easiest way. We're not in 24/7. I will repeat that if you want to report an incident that's happening now, obviously ring us up, 999 if it's urgent, 101 if it's not urgent. If you want to contact our team, there's an email address. Otherwise, do it online. You know, you can contact you and request that it come through to the team. It's another way in which we'll get an email and we'll come back to you and respond to that. I'm mindful I've only got 10-15 minutes. I could talk all day about what we do. Have you got any questions for me directly? Is now the right time for you?
What I'll do is I'll just go through some of the questions that have already been
Okay, yeah.
and then we'll divide the questions between two sessions.
Okay.
So, right, okay. So, again, I think we spoke about this a couple of times, but I've left it in because I know we wanted to take it off. So we are seeing, you did show us some stats about the number of burglaries and all of the other crimes. How many arrests were made, and also how many of them led to incidents?
Yeah, so as I say, in terms of burglaries, we have that conversion rate of roughly 8% of offences are detected. For burglary specifically, we're about 2%, about 15, 18 months ago. It was really low, as it was in other areas. So we're sort of 4 times better than we were. Obviously, Greater Manchester has been sending an officer to every burglary for the last year anyway. Other forces have now been told to do that. The team have been brilliant in the way in which we respond. We cocoon an address to where we get a burglary. We go to all the other properties nearby. We'll look for doorbell footage, CCTV footage, any witnesses. We'll make people aware. We might even take out Faraday bags or other things depending on what's been going on. Sentencing, not for me, it's for the courts, I'm afraid. So again, we would love to see tougher sentences. And in terms of other actions, I mean, we've done crime stands at the Asda, at Booths, at Tesco's. We've got more and more crime pop-up stands to help people be informed about problems. We're doing a massive campaign on social media around burglary and on sort of the winter nights and the darker night sorts of problems. So there's lots and lots of work, and we will also react to specific incidents as well in terms of if we have an odd incident or one that's that will concern the community, we'll come out and engage directly, and you'll see reassurance patrols and things at that time.
Okay, all right. Now the second thing is about seeing more officers on the streets, in neighbourhoods, especially if there are some specific hotspots where there has been trouble, having more PCSOs and police on beat. So in Borden Hill, we did see quite a few of them walking around, but we haven't seen a lot of presence. I think Hill still you can see a police van every now and then outside Tesco, but in the Borden area, and perhaps this side as well, we haven't seen a lot of officers patrolling streets. So is that something you think is happening and is sufficient, or are you open to more of that happening?
I think if there's a specific problem, obviously invite us down, and in most cases I think a PCSO will come and attend. Generally speaking, we kind of know where our problem areas are in South Trafford. We use the data, we trust the data, we believe in the data now, and then we'll put resources where we feel we're going to get the most benefit from that. So if we know, for example, we've got issues near to the retail park in specific roads, we'll put resources there at the times. So we're quite sort of data-led, and that's really, really important. I know the Met we're talking about, Sir Lawrence Sherman, he's a professor of criminology, and he's advising the Met on this sort of work. It's called evidence-based policing. You're lucky, I've done a course on it, I know all about it, I know the data, I love data, and I'll put people exactly where they need to be at the right time, and that's why we've seen benefits of reduction in ASP and those sorts of problems.
Okay, all right. But yes, there are hotspots, but I think another thing which would be nice is if you have PCSOs, randomly walking streets in the areas. There doesn't have to be trouble, but why have that trouble anyways? So it's nice if randomly, through the week we can have that visual presence of officers. It is quite reassuring.
Yeah. And again, all I can say is I also live in the area, and I know if I go out, I'm going to go out shortly. When I go out and about, I very rarely see a police officer. But I do know, because I sit in the office, that the officers have been out. And what I try and encourage again is to say where they are on social media. I'm really big on saying, look, if you're out in Hale, post it. If you're out in Salemore, post it. And then that way we've got an electronic record of where we've been. If we've got problems at Mornwood Park, we've gone to Mornwood Park because you've told us we've got problems. So again, if you tell us, then we'll try and respond and we'll go there. And normally there'll be a Facebook post from the officers to say, we've been there in response to your concerns. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's really, really important that we show that we're listening, to what the communities are asking us to do.
Okay, thank you. Now we are obviously approaching winter, and it's longer dark days. So we have that concern with children walking back from school, even adults, crossing parks, walking back on slightly, lonely streets. What advice would you give them on how to keep themselves safe?
I think for myself, I wear dark clothing, and a lot of people will wear dark clothing. Looking around the room, and a lot of people are wearing dark clothing. And it's a sort of style and a fashion that we've all sort of become accustomed to. From a parent's point of view, I'd certainly much rather see children in brighter clothing, you know, red jackets, something that's going to catch the light, even something with a reflective strip. You know, I've mentioned I'm a traffic officer. There's nothing worse than driving down a road and seeing kids and young people in dark clothing, especially at the night time, because they're invisible, you know, and it can cause problems for them mainly, but also for drivers who report concerns. So I think it's how we can dress our kids, you know, and we can all be mindful as well. I've seen joggers running around with lights on, which, you know, alerts people. I saw a lady on a bicycle the other day who had like blue flashing lights on her arms, which was different, but I couldn't miss her, so it was really, really important. So it's really for people to encourage each other to be safe and to encourage our families to sort of be safe as well, you know, and certainly for children. I know you don't ask me a question, so go on.
When I was a kid, there was like a hedgehog thing at school that was like stay safe, stay alive, and they gave reflective things out for your bags and stuff, and like newsletters for parents for basic common sense things like this now. Will there be any of that again?
There are some armbands I can see there for young people.
I mean, like within the schools, like partnering up with the schools to tell the parents for kids at schools, things like that. Yeah. You know, go where the crossing is. Don't stand behind a tree where you're not going to be seen. Yeah. That kind of side of it. There was that when I was a kid. Is there any of that stuff planned?
So a couple of things. We've had some schools contact us about concerns at drop off and pick up. I know we've been out this week and we've done some work around identifying drivers who choose to ignore the advice that we write to them about. So I know we've got that. I also know that we've refreshed what we call the junior PCSO thing. That's where we go to a school and teachers and children become part of sort of a small uniform sort of challenging behaviours around schools. I don't know if Lindsay's got anything else from a community safety point of view about children and safety.
Yeah, so we do have a project manager who I'll speak about later on, who actually is employed to go into schools and set up projects such as the walking bus with schools, encouraging children and parents to walk with the children to school and leave the car at home. But we do also have a PC who goes regularly into schools to do, you know, security topics such as internet safety. So I think, you know, the point there is really valuable if we can take that back to Lorraine and trying to incorporate that message into schools. Really good.
I think I'd invite you just to contact us, and then if you know, we can't come out to everybody, but if you contact us, you'll get a response. I'll guarantee that. You know, and we'll look at doing something. And if we can't deliver it directly, we'll put it on somebody who will.
Okay.
In terms of general house security, I know where I am, we've just had some cameras put up, you know, and everyone's got their own sort of thoughts on home security. Again, it's just one of those where just sort of this time of year is a good time to think about, you know, do you need additional lighting? I know it's a cost of living thing, so maybe have one with a sensor that comes on when you get activity near to it. You know, and also trimming back bushes that might have overgrown and just create a bit of a gap, you know, for something to hide behind. You know, we do see as a percentage more crime around property crime, you know, around burglary. So again, it's just you looking at your own environment. You know, there are things online to help advise you about how to be safe and how to, you know, think about what you can do. You know, I put prickly bushes near some of my windows, so it's not a nice place to go in. But it's about, you know, what you can do. You know, do you park your car in the garage? You know, can you park your car in the garage? Do you put a steering lock on it? I've got a keyless car. I put both my keys, that's my spare key and my normal key, in a Faraday bag. But I'd still really prefer to put a steering lock on it as well. But like many people, that's an inconvenient to me, because then every time I get in it, I've got to take it off. So I know practically, you know, we have this comfort element of keyless entry, which makes cars more attractive to buy. They look quite cool. You just walk up to it and open it, but then it's easier to steal. And in particular, the other ones I will highlight, if you drive a Range Rover, I know a 4 that went last week, and the current technology allows somebody with a laptop to come up, code the keys and drive it off. So that's how simple it can be. And I know of 4 jobs last week where Range Rovers went, so there's a particular security concern with those that I will highlight.
Right, okay. So we'll try and cover these two together. So, you know, the police initiatives to tackle antisocial behaviour, which also spills into knife crime, which we dealt with a bit. And also, how can the community try and safeguard themselves? What do we do as people?
Yeah. So for ASB, again, tell us. You know, if we've got problems, tell us. We'll always look at it. We'll always consider it. We'll always look at it as an area, not just a single location. If you're a repeat victim of ASB, then obviously we'll come to you because we focus on repeat victims. But the main thing is we're data-led. So again, if we're told about it, whatever level of ASB it is, usually if we nip it in the bud early, Lindsay's brilliant, she'll do what's called an acceptable behaviour agreement, which basically will say to somebody, look, your behaviour's not acceptable, sort it out, otherwise we'll come down hard on you. And it works in a lot of cases. So we can nip ASB in the bud very, very quickly, and we do try and do that. We've seen some really positive trends on our ASB in the area. For the more serious stuff, again, usually for the aggravated style robberies, usually vehicles are targeted. So again, it's about considering your own security and what you've got. I spoke to somebody the other day who spent £1,000 on a tracking system, an immobilisation system, all sorts of things. It's a lot of money, but some people drive cars that are a lot of money. And sadly, in my job, I see people in a £50,000–£60,000 car with next to no security on it. You know, so it's a personal thing. You know, if you want to protect your assets, you know, if you've got a mobile phone, you might insure it. Let's say with cars and property, you know, you might just go the extra step and get somebody in to advise you on security measures that you might choose to do. And again, there is stuff online that you can consider to look at. But as I say, aggravated robberies are very, very few and far between. I think I've had 1 in 6 months in South Trafford that I'm aware of. So as a percentage, it's a very, very small number.
Okay. Sorry, just one moment, because there's a question that had come through, which I think the gentleman is here. Olive, is that you? Yeah. That's your question. Do you want to actually...
Yeah, before we used to have, on a weekly basis, we used to have the Trafford crime figures sent out, which you could share out on the WhatsApp groups of the Neighbourhood Watch. And it was a very good way of understanding what's going on in our area compared to others. You could see the trend of what type of robbery it was and incidents it was. And I know before COVID there was a system mismatch or upgrade going on, but it seems like that seems to... You thought an IT system is bad and it just is probably worse, but you thought the police had sorted it out by now.
I think it's well documented. We still have a slight system mismatch, but we do have a lot more confidence in the data that we're seeing coming through. I mentioned forum data-led. The challenge with sharing data is what's happened, and what's happened locally is we share data and then people challenge it. So we then spend days unpicking the data and then answering somebody a question based on data we've given them. So we've stopped giving it out, basically, because just by sending out a newsletter, it generates a week's work. So it's just how people react to that information. It'd be great to stand there and say, yeah, I can give you a graph of what's going on in South Trafford. I've already raised it before. I get what we call a weekly accountability pack, so I can quote data, I can see data weekly. I'd love it if we have a community-focused one, like I wouldn't say a watered-down version, but one that we can share that's not restricted, that we can just say, look, there it all is. And then if you live in South Trafford, you click on South Trafford, and up pops your graphic, you know, like a plan on a page type of thing, you know, for South Trafford, gives you trends, a couple of graphs. I think that's in the capability of the teams, but it's not currently available. But for us to create that and do that on a rolling basis, it's just generated too much work, and I can't get the support from my support staff to do that because of their experience in doing that with the computers.
I understand, but I just think as a snapshot of any type of snapshot, it gives you an understanding of where you stand, what type of issues are out there, and how well you guys are doing. It's your message, you know, at the end of the day. If you're saying, we've had, you know, in Trafford we had 40 burglaries in these areas compared to, say, central Manchester or wherever it is, we're doing well as a team, and you know what the success rates maybe of those are. It just gives you an ability to give your viewpoints, and it's shared amongst people, and people see that, because otherwise, I mean, for me, I don't personally go and look at all the websites and social media. You know, for a personal user, if something happens or someone tells me something, that's where I get my information from. I'm not searching for other areas or what's happening. If I hear it, I read it, then I know about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have an idea. And you're telling me your stats and your figures now, and that's the first time I'm seeing something like that. So I think most people would be here. But it's just I think it's an easy way from a policing perspective.
I absolutely agree with you. I agree with you. I love data myself. I'd love to be able to share it more freely. Currently we can't. We are using it differently internally, which is good. I think that's the first step. So we have confidence in our data. And then I think the next step then is creating that package, maybe something for Joe and the IAG, really. You know, that we create a package that force-wise, because for me it's a force problem. I can't promise it for South Trafford. I'd love to, because I live in South Trafford. But you know, I think force-wise, that any resident in Greater Manchester can click on where they live and get a snapshot of what's going on. You know, but what we find is that if we give some information, people ask us more bespoke questions, and then that just generates a whole heap of work. Because the broader sense of crime, you know, we talk about those 4 main areas that we look at, and ASB and other things. But you know, there's probably 50, 60, maybe 100 different categories of crime. So what is important to one person when they ask that question, we're then forced into a position of having to respond to it, which, you know, we're not.
You don't want to be answering everyone's questions. You want to get a snapshot, and that's what I'd say. I'd like to see a snapshot. Everyone has different views, and I imagine, you know, from a headcount point of view, I do understand that, but I think there's a message to take back.
I don't know if anyone's heard of Police UK, the website that's out there. And this goes back to what Mr. Bryant was saying about the mismatch in data systems. We are the only force, I believe, that do not submit any data to Police UK. I'll give you an example. I was looking to move house 18 months ago. I thought, I wonder what the crime figures are like in Altrincham. And I looked, and according to that particular site, there was no crime at all. And I found out it's because of the data mismatch. That would normally be populated. So if you went to another force area in Merseyside, Cheshire, you could look on your postcode and it would tell you what's happened in that area for the last month and the months in that previous 12 months. And I think that would be a benefit, but things are moving on and things are getting better. If we do get a new system, which I think is coming at some point, the Chief has already said that's going to happen, that's in the public domain, that system will be able to feed the information into that particular website. And I think that would be a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, I think that was one of my points I was going to make, is, you know, I think I remember seeing on Rightmove or Zillow, you could have a look at the postcode and they give you crime figures. So I wasn't sure where that figure came from, but obviously from you saying, as you mentioned, it's not part of Greater Manchester.
Well, we can't give them the data so at the moment. It's there for us, but it's not there for that particular.
When we receive the data, and again, I want to be confident in that data. So I can look at a sheet of data, and for example, it might be a collision report I'm looking at, but there'll be a domestic report in the data. So we've just got a real mess with some of the back office systems. That's just being really honest. It's in the public domain. The Chief's already committed to getting a new computer system. I know that's ongoing. It'll be a year or so, I would guess, before that's going to come. But for us to work through that is so time consuming. I mean, I know I provided some overview figures for burglaries and things, and I can talk certain numbers, but to put it out, I could say there's only been 3 burglaries in Hale, for example, and then I'll have somebody say to me, there's 5 last week on my road. It's that sort of problem, and that's where we get that challenge, and it causes that additional workload.
I understand. I mean, you're aware of it, so you're raising the point. You've answered the point, so I do understand that.
Sorry, just before yourself, there was a gentleman at the back who had a question.
I'm Rajat. You were talking about aggravated vehicle taking, and there have been 2 instances in West Midlands where I've come to know from my work colleagues where people are trying to sell their car privately, invited some people home, and their vehicles got taken quite violently. And West Midlands now offer a service where if you want to sell your car privately, you can do it in a car park or police station. Is that something that you are aware of? Is that something that you are looking at? Or because that seems to be, because you would expect that the criminal will not come in a police station car park.
I could see a number of conflicts with that. I think, you know, where people are privately selling a motor vehicle, I wouldn't want my team or myself to be seen to be brokering a deal or be involved in a deal, because obviously used car sales can go badly wrong on occasions, you know. So it's an interesting point that you raise. If you can get me additional information, I'd be happy to look at it. But I do have sort of front-loaded concerns about brokering a car exchange in a police car.
So this is not brokering; it is just seeing that the car in a place where there are loads of CCTVs, you expect a police station car park to have loads of CCTVs. It's just a thought, because I think whatever is coming north, it will come north eventually, this modus operandi, I suspect.
Yeah, if you could feed anything to Raheel, I'm happy to look at whatever their scheme is. But you know, there's a number of things. You know, how do we monitor that? How do we staff it? You know, there's thousands, tens of thousands of transactions for used cars every week. You know, so I'm just sort of thinking I've got a small team of maybe 10 people. You know, so it's a good point. You know, but luckily those numbers here are very, very low. But if we get some information, we'll look at it.
Yeah. So Roger, if you want to send us some information. Sorry, the lady over there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, you talked about children being safe, looking after the children. What about elder people when they're walking home from Altrincham, the centre of Altrincham, going home? Can you give any tips of how to feel safe? Because taxis are not easy to get at the moment.
Yeah, taxis are a challenge. You know, I know I say again, I live in the area, so occasionally it's difficult to get an Uber or whatever. So again, I think it's about understanding that generally our streets in South Trafford are pretty safe. Obviously, you know, how somebody would travel home, again, let's go back to our plan. You know, can we drive, you know, or can we arrange a lift, or what's our fallback? You know, so sometimes we can arrange that and plan it. You know, it's in terms of our if we're going to walk, obviously wearing bright clothing. It's on an as required basis, because obviously everybody's got their own needs.
Just when you've got any ideas of feeling safer.
I'm just thinking, the first one alarms, if you're carrying one of those, you know, I mean, if you're carrying it, you know there's at least something by which you can attract attention or just shock the person.
Yes. I think generally, you know, what we might tend to see, but not on a frequent basis, is people snatching bags or people taking phones. Yeah. So, you know, the youth that might come by on an electric scooter because you can't hear it, they're already on you, the phone's in your hand and they snatch it. So it's keeping, and I'd say the same to most people, is to, where possible, don't walk down the road on your phone. I know I do walk with my dog, but you know, everybody's different, yeah. But even with headphones, people can be a target, you know. So it's about, you know, if you want to keep your property safe and you feeling safe, I suppose, you know, have a bag that maybe you can strap across your body, you know, is a bit easier than just holding something in your hand, and maybe just keeping your phone out of sight.
Because I'm not a nervous person, you see, but I am finding it a bit hard now. It's so dark.
Yeah.
And the roads are not, I mean, the pavements aren't good, you know.
Yeah, it's that time of year again, it's all about darker nights, and I know the local authority have turned some of the lights off, some of them down, because obviously electric costs, you know, and obviously it's slippery as well. So I know there's problems, but I think it's that sort of keeping your bag safe, keeping things out of your hands where possible, and I think that can help.
Can you tell me what you've been talking about? Is it ASB or something?
Antisocial behaviour.
Right. I know you have more questions. Sorry, is it all right to hold? Did you have questions?
Me?
Yeah.
No, just alerting this lady.
Oh, no, I was aware of that. That's fine. Can we take some more questions later? Because, yeah, we will have another session later, because I am aware we have 2 more sessions to get through, and some more topics is out there. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Right, so we've got Lindsay. You have been hearing bits and bobs from Lindsay. We did post a couple of questions to Lindsay prior to the meeting, and what we thought was, if we have it as a discussion, before getting into it, is there anything you want to say, or should we just read?
Yeah, just firstly, Helen Grant, who's the strategic lead for crime and antisocial behaviour for Trafford Council, wasn't able to attend the meeting, so she just sent her apologies. And in place, I'm here. So if I can answer your question, I will. If I am unable to, I will take the question away and then feed back to Raheel. Is that okay?
Perfect. Right, so I think the first one, and we've heard it come up a few times today, is street lighting. Obviously, especially with the winter period, it is extremely dark really soon. It does cause safety concerns. So what is the best way for us as residents to contact the council?
Yeah. So the link is on there, and I'm sure Raheel can and it attaches to your website. So if you were to report a light that's faulty, the council will respond within 7 to 10 working days to fix that light. If it is causing a danger, so that lights hanging out or anything like that, they will respond within 24 hours. In terms of additional lighting, was that one of the issues as well? So in terms of additional items, the lighting for, having a look at evidence base. So if there is a particular area where there isn't a lot of light and there has been, say, robbery or any crime, antisocial behaviour in that particular area, that is something that will be looked at based on that evidence. So of crimes being reported, antisocial behaviour, and the council will evaluate the information and where additional lighting could be provided.
Thank you. Now also there's some concern around parks and safety in parks, especially as it gets dark towards the evening. People don't feel very safe to walk in parks. So is there anything that the council can do, perhaps in conjunction with the police? Is it something you can do to make parks safer?
Yeah, and prior to this meeting, I did speak to Public Health, one of the managers there, and asked this question, how do we make parks safer in Trafford? And the answer given was based again on evidence. The more that parks are used, the safer they become, because there's more activity there. In terms of antisocial behaviour occurring in parks, we do have outreach workers that will go into parks and hit the hotspot areas of if there's a group of youths, for example. We did have a particular area of concern in Stamford Park where youths were setting light to wheelie bins from local residents, bringing them into the park. So again, with partnership working, speaking and being heavily integrated with the Neighbourhood policing team, additional patrols in that area and actually getting the outreach workers to engage in conversation with those youths. And my job in terms of dealing with antisocial behaviour is, as Steve mentioned before, the starting point. If a young person is caused antisocial behaviour they haven't done before, I invite that young person in to the police station with their parents and they're given a warning and a contract's drawn up for a 6-month contract of their conditions on them for them not to cause any further antisocial behaviour. If they then, from leaving the police station, continue to cause antisocial behaviour, it's then my job to start building a case and using legislation to bring them to court. Some of the conditions we can put in place if they're persistently causing an issue in an area such as Brady retail park, we can have conditions that ban them from using the retail park, banning them from using public transport if that's an issue of concern, or use of travel whilst causing a concern.
Thank you. The other thing was police can't be everywhere, so whether the council could perhaps have police cutouts, just like little cardboard cutouts in market areas, so whether it's the Alderman Retail, the Timperley one, Borden, Hale, whether we could have some of these police cutouts so the community feel like they are being watched or they're being looked after.
And I know a lot of retailers use the police cutouts as a deterrent to shoplifters. In terms of the issue I see with having them placed in the area is people coming by and damaging them and throwing them around. I don't know what your take is, Steve, on police cutouts as a cardboard cutout in the area.
I think it comes down to if you've got retailers that would like one, then we can speak with them and they can sort of manage it. Again, it's just having somebody on board who's working in partnership with us to facilitate that activity. So I'm happy to talk about that and look at funding.
Okay. Yeah, because we have had like the co-op in Borden, which has been burgled, I think 3 or 4 times now. So it's basically the retailers connecting with themselves and then perhaps taking responsibility of managing the safety of those cutouts.
Yeah, I know they've been used in other areas of Manchester, so it's something that we could look at.
Okay, all right. There was another point, and I think what I did was I split it between the police and the council. And this is around safety near schools. Now, what we have seen as
you know, especially with more cars being used to drop kids off, that there are a lot of safety concerns near schools. One of the ideas that, you know, the Be Safe committee had was whether, you know, the council could facilitate, like the Lollipop Man, a walking bus where you have a common point where parents could drop their children off, and a volunteer, could be a parent or someone, but there has to be some vetting for who that individual is, could walk those children to school, so we can, one, get the traffic near the school lightened and make it safer. Is that something that you know, the council would be willing to look at?
It certainly is. So Sue Whitehead, her details are on the board there, and again we can share them. She was employed roughly about 3 months ago to work with one of the conditions with the walking bus, so to actively encourage. So she would actually set up the project. So if any parents of any particular schools want to start the walking bus, then Sue would actually set it up and liaise with the school and all the forms in terms of any DBS checks that need to be completed or volunteers. So parents could be the volunteers.
I know that there are some issues regarding road safety around children on schools where they are already on a bus route. So on the Broomwood, for example, there's different areas of Timperley, Bowden, where some infrastructure isn't capable for stopping total traffic there. It's okay with the Oakfield Brow because that's at the end right at the very end of Taylor Road. So that's easy to manage by adding extra PCSOs and traffic for moving them along. But on roads such as like Mainwood Road, Grove Park Road in Timperley, what sort of issues can you give to the community there for helping them as regarding children and road safety?
That is something I can take back, but yeah, again, like you say, it's that infrastructure that needs to be in place. So, you know, I know we met, didn't we, a couple of months ago, so we probably need to follow up on that meeting as well and bring traffic from the council involved in that. So we can have a chat afterwards about getting that next meeting in place and bringing that issue of infrastructure up.
Right. And I guess we have Sue's contact here, so if anyone is passionate to take this forward and even perhaps volunteer to be one of those people to walk children to school, then you can connect with Sue. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to pose a question. I live in Green Walk and Stamford Road. The potholes in the road have not been attended to for probably years. Yeah. And they're getting worse and worse. Is there any plans to do anything about it? And secondly, just recently, the leaves, etc. Nobody's been around to take them away. I mean, 2-3 years ago, it was perfect. Now, it's not. Do you have any ideas on it?
No, and I think it puts me in a bit of a position because I do work for the council and I just, you know, I deal with antisocial behaviour, but in terms of, you know, the issue around potholes and, you know, road sleepers, that is again something I can feed back. That isn't my remit, so I wouldn't.
Take it back.
Certainly will do, yeah.
I do, thank you.
Thank you. So a to-do perhaps, Caroline, for next. Yeah. And also the local councillors would be someone good too.
I'm sorry?
The local councillors will be somebody good. Do we have the local councillors' contact details? Yeah. Here, that you could share with this gentleman at some point. Well, can't see you from it.
And it was Green Walk, wasn't it?
So where do you live? Which in Bowden?
In Bowden.
Stamford Road. So is Schengen here?
Is Schengen here?
So did you have to leave? All right, okay. What you can do is you can give us your contact details, you can leave it with Ash and we'll get in touch with the councillor, and if you give us an email address or some contact details so we can get back in touch with you. But rest assured we live in the same area, so I have mentioned it to the councillor about the potholes.
Excuse me, you have more connections than I have, so I'll leave it with you.
The car that you're driving over, still less in Dodgson.
Yeah, I know.
I'll leave it with you.
All right, thank you. Yes, obviously. We go on the same road, so it's fine. All
I'm
right.
a local retired magistrate, so I'll pass it on.
Oh God, no. All right, thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you for the information you provided. We have Councillor Rob Duncan with us, and he has been really kind to volunteer to also be in the Be Safe, Feel Safe committee. He is working tirelessly for his community, but he's also very happy to work outside his ward, which is commendable. So welcome, Rob, and over to you.
Yep. Okay, right, thank you very much. I just want to address the leaves and the potholes. Okay, so I will address that with council for you. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of an introduction about myself. Now, my name is Rob Duncan, and I'm the ward councillor down at St Mary's, Densdale. Okay, and I'd like to thank the team for allowing me to come today and have a little bit of a chat with the community. Okay, so at this stage, I would just like to give some feedback from residents of the ward that I represent, okay, and hopefully an attempt to give that little bit of extra awareness, okay, that means a lot to the communities and the residents. Okay, now, as my role as of a local councillor, okay, I need to be seen to listen to the community, okay, and to work with police officers. Now, I suppose really that is a link, it's a small link in the chain, a little bit like a conduit role, okay. If the residents aren't aware of where to approach them, normally what happens, they'll pick up the phone to the local police officers, or they'll pick up the phone to the local councillor. That's where I kick in, and it's the job what I love. Okay, so I wanted to relay on behalf of residents that didn't want to speak today, and I've agreed to speak on their behalf. So again, some of the issues right now, residents are telling me, look, we need to have better street lighting. And I know it's touched before about the street lighting. So inadequate or broken street lights, quite simply, pick up the phone and speak to your councillor and get them to report it. Okay. I don't want anybody to walk home from work, or indeed, you know, from the tram stop and have it dimly lit. Okay. I think better street lighting is a potential deterrent to crime. So residents are becoming more and more involved with their local communities through the likes of WhatsApp groups. And where possible, they're asking their neighbours to join these groups, making them feel part of the community, and also make them more aware of what is going on locally. Now, residents are also becoming more mindful of elderly people, and starting to knock on their doors as well. Now, this resident has specifically asked me to make more awareness of your neighbour, make more awareness of these WhatsApp groups, join them to these WhatsApp groups. I do genuinely think they are key. Okay. It is all about good communication at the end of the day. So I'd like to relate one particular incident relating to a local carjacking. Okay, it is actually involving a Range Rover. Now, a group of youths in their 20s did carjack a family in the Range Rover. Now, this clearly traumatised the family, understandably. So, of course, the family dialed 999. I got involved because I'm the local councillor. So again, the solution and resolution to this was not just, you know, to deal with the trauma, okay, which then became a police incident, but what can we do? What can I do as a local councillor to at least help that little bit? Okay, I'm certainly not there as a resolution, full stop, but if we can work together, that is what I'm after. So that's where we go again with local WhatsApp group, with local social medias. And again, I've seen lots of police reports on social media. Now, I think they're absolutely bob on. I think they're brilliant because it does tell the community what you guys are up to. So I really do look out for them. They are good. Now, I think at this stage, you know, some people might think, you know, if you're involved with Neighbourhood Watch or you're involved with the WhatsApps, you then become part of this. Oh, are they a nosy neighbour? Are they curtain twitchers? Now, to some extent, I'm probably one of them. So, however, these curtain twitchers, okay, they can help create a safer, better community. So I'm confident that by the recruitment of more police officers, which I'm glad you've given the stats before, which is great, okay, the overall figures are relatively low per population, and that the incidents that I have just relayed to is isolated, thank goodness. Okay, so again, try to make good use of local community groups. Speak to your neighbours, because it's through these strong local networks and communities that people do talk, and they are aware of what's going on in Broadheath, in St Mary's Ward, or up in Hill. Okay. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them by email. Contact me. My details are online. Okay, and my name is Rob Duncan. Okay. Yes.
I actually can't remember what it's called, but there is a Neighbourhood Watch in Bowden, and everybody's in contact with everybody. It's absolutely marvellous. Any problems, they're just writing on the WhatsApp and just getting in touch with people. It's really good. We should have it in every neighbourhood.
I think it's vital. Since I've been elected as a local councillor, it's one thing I am passionate about. I deal with a lot of activity on the Sale West estate just off Manor Avenue. Okay? Community centres are an absolute vital aspect for youth, okay, just to get them off the road. Now, I'm not here to tackle crime in a day, and I don't even pretend to be somebody that I'm not. All I can say is, if you are aware of WhatsApp groups, you know, promote one. If you've not got one for your street, get one, okay, because it just lets people know what is going on your street. Okay. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for your time. So I am not aware of other councillors other than Rob in the room. Could councillors in the room please raise your hands? Oh, hello. So what's your name?
Shall I start? Okay. I'm Councillor John Holden. I also represent St Mary's Ward, just north of you, just over the brook. Oh,
lovely, lovely. So would you like to take a seat in the front? We have a few questions for the councillors, nothing to frighten you all. But we'll quickly run through them. So any of the councillors over here, would you like to speak? Lovely. So can we just get your attention back over here? So if you all don't mind, councillors, beginning by introducing yourselves, please.
Okay. My name is John Holden. I'm a councillor for St Mary's Ward. I was elected in 2004 and I'm still here. I'm a Conservative councillor and St Mary's Ward has 3 Conservative councillors representing it. The other 2 are over here, strangely on my left. So that's where, and I've lived in this area since the mid-90s, and I'm an old bloke.
Lovely. Thanks so much for joining. Rob, you just introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm the third man, so to speak. My name's Dan Bunting. Like John, I've also represented St Mary's Ward since 2004. I live in the ward in the same way as John does, and yeah, I'm available sort of as and when people require me. Emails are all on the website. You can just look us up either individually, or you can look at your councillors by ward. Appreciate it. This isn't St Mary's ward. The 3 local councils, unfortunately, for whatever reason, aren't here. Don't know why, but that's something you can take up with them.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I think St Mary's ward gets like double stars, triple stars actually.
Yeah.
Right. And we probably will take this off because the invite was sent to all the councillors and Shenki was here, and I think we did have a couple of other councillors say they're coming. But anyhow, we still have yourselves. So we have a few questions, and I don't know if they're very clear. Can you turn the lights down, please? Right. So, and it's open to all 3 of you. You can all take the question up, or you can answer them individually. So safety issues, how do you as councillors engage with your ward in addressing community safety issues? How do you reach out to your ward residents to address their concerns?
Can I say something? This is a very difficult area to cover, simply because of the scale. We've talked about WhatsApp groups and Facebook and various other things. We have a rather more traditional role and view and modus operandi up in the north there. And that is we go door to door talking to people. And where we come across people who are worried about their personal safety, we are in a position to actually use some of the statistics that you guys have provided to say it's not as bad as you think it is. And we're also, as a result of our personal life experience, able to give a bit of advice. And the best piece of advice about safety that I can ever give to anyone is don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. Just avoid it. Keep in the places that are daylight, that are lit on your way back. Be aware of your surroundings, and if possible, don't go alone. I know it's not always possible, but if there are 2 people, I think you're highly unlikely to have any problems. But our main way of communicating with people who are concerned about their safety is to talk to them and tell them what we think they can do and should do. And of course, that key word that's come up a lot this afternoon is listen. And if people are concerned about their safety, talk to them, listen to them, don't dismiss it, and try and be as supportive as you can. Because that's all we can do. Let's not be too grandiose about the power of an elected official. We have little power, but we do have 2 ears and a brain, and we should use those and do use those as much as we can in our area to actually reassure people and to help those who are really worried to connect to the right areas for some proper professional advice. Okay?
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, as John says, we do go out and speak to people. We'll work our way around our ward. We're usually out every weekend. Obviously not this weekend because we happen to be here. We will be out now usually. But we're here today, so we're not out knocking on doors. But we do go work our way around the ward. So unfortunately there are a great many houses and just 3 of us, so we just take a little while to work our way around the entire ward. Obviously we're available via telephone and via email as well. All the contact details are on Trafford Council's website, so if you want to go there, they're all there for you. Just one point that was mentioned earlier, people reporting in faulty writing columns. If you are reporting them in, often a lot of the time people will try and describe where they are to you. It's often difficult. Just be aware each one is numbered, so you need to make sure you get the number as well. Basically, what is the road and what is the column number? So each road will be numbered 1 to whatever it is, depending on how big a road it is. So it's a little little number that you're looking for. Usually it's about 7 foot off the ground usually. So column number 2 on this road, report it in. You can either do it yourself via the website, or you can email your local councillor or ring up and tell them, and we'll take it from there for you if you can't, if you don't want to do it yourself.
Okay. That's really handy. I didn't know there are column numbers written on.
Yeah, it's about 7 foot off the ground, don't you remember? It makes it easier than trying to describe it's the one opposite number 42 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just give them the number, and that makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely, thank you.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, of course.
If I'm not mistaken, you've got the gold bands of Trafford Council.
Yes.
And the numbers are associated with those bands, if I'm not mistaken.
They're usually just above them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can't find the numbers, don't let that stop you. An address outside which the lamp standard is works probably just as well, but the bureaucrats just love those numbers. And someone's gone around and stenciled them on carefully, so you might as well use them.
Okay. So actually that was the second question, so you've already addressed it. So faulty, so potholes, I would imagine don't have numbers, so we will just tell you the street and the cost. I can keep counting, we'll go to infinity. So
you can, if you wish to, report them yourselves on the website,
yeah.
Or you can let us know if you prefer not to do it yourself. Yes, obviously potholes aren't numbered, unfortunately.
Use what 3 words?
Just a description of where it is and what, and we'll try and take it.
Okay, what was it, Steve?
I say you could use that what 3 words app. So if you're studying a pothole, you can give the exact location using that app. So technology.
Well, all right. Okay.
Right, sorry. Another thing to mention for safety, particularly in parks or people walking, is that you can report. It's not necessarily just the lighting; it's the trees that are covered. You know, so if trees are overgrown or bushes, even local residents who refuse to cut the trees and bushes back, it can be reported. Also on the website, which I think is another good one to make you feel safer.
Absolutely.
As you can see, if you can see you're walking down a passage and it's clear, you feel safer.
Absolutely. Agree. Right, okay, so we've come to the third one. Do yourselves as councillors hold regular meetings with your ward, and how do you inform residents about it?
Would you like me to take this? Yeah. Okay. Certainly the 3 of us, we have a monthly ward gathering with residents, okay, and that is the first Saturday of every month. That is at the Coppice Library on Coppice Avenue, and it's a 2-hour session. People are free to come and go, voice their opinions. If they're not very, techie minded, we'll do it there and then. Get anything logged, any issues raised, and then we can feed that into council on their behalf and follow up accordingly. So just to confirm, the ward meetings down at St Mary's, which coincidentally will be Manor Ward, renamed Manor Ward in May. They are every month, the beginning of the month at the library.
And is this information available on some website or something?
So how we normally relay that is through social media, and again it's on our literature when we're going out, and we are actively telling residents when they are. Yeah.
So what it actually means is that regularly there is a place that you can come to meet with your councillors, but don't think you can get away with it, because we are still going to come and harass you on your doorsteps every week. And it won't be very frequent because there are too many people within the ward, but at some point somebody is going to knock on your door and say, hello, this is me, what issues do you want to talk to me about? And when you've been a councillor for a while, you start to enjoy that, because it really gives you a purpose. So when someone knocks on your door and asks you what the issues are, tell them, please.
Lady.
Yes, I'd just like to thank you councillors for actually bothering to come along today. There's people here that have taken the time out of their busy weekend from Timperley, Bowden, and we actually live on the doorstep. Right. Can you confirm that there's no councillor here actually from Bowden, from Brady
No,
that's what you said. That's your problem.
Yeah.
So this is a serious issue where we can't turn up.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are we supposed to discuss, the gentleman there, about potholes, poor lighting? The lady over there mentioned about the overgrown shrubbery. And we're getting thrown down our throats about active travel. Get out. You need to be in your homes now. We've got this money pot where we need to take the money from so we can invest on cycle routes, and they can't be bothered to turn up. But thank you for bothering to come, and thank you for bothering to get this organised for everybody today.
You have to be aware, you know, that it's only Holland who are playing. It's only Holland who are playing in the World Cup this afternoon. If it was England, we probably wouldn't be.
Sorry. Yeah, I just have a question for all of you, police, council, and traffic council as well. You earlier mentioned about partnering with schools, like about the knife crime, and just make them aware. So is it just secondary schools you are talking about that? Because I think it is quite important, especially for the kids from primary school who are going to secondary school, like year 5 and 6. So having a police coming to schools and having an event like throughout all private schools in Trafford, making them aware that carrying a knife is not cool, and any other safety instructions as well, how to be safe when they are, because it's the new way of life for them. They are moving into like a big step. They're taking a big step. So just making them aware, not just one school or whichever school asks who is for it. It's just, can we make this like an initiative to go across all the private schools around like May times, because this is the time when they are moving to high school, and just giving this like just the newer way of life. Now they're moving in this big step. So how knife crime or anything else, and safety measures.
Yeah. We do have travel safe, so I've said this for a long time, that transition of going from primary school to secondary is huge. From, for example, your parents or carers dropping you off to the school gates, to then all of a sudden you're on public transport, you've got a new mobile phone maybe for Christmas, you've got expensive gear on you, of learning how to be safe. Travel Safe are now engaging really well with schools to deliver that message of personal safety when you are travelling in public. So I know with the knife crime initiative, the police officer who works in Trafford, Lorraine, she goes out and delivers knife crime presentations, but that is predominantly to secondary schools, just because of the nature of the message that they're trying to convey there.
The challenge, as I said before, is about not every school wants us to go in and talk about knife crime, and we can't just turn up and say we're going to come to an assembly and talk about it. So there is an element of negotiation and discussion. I think probably at Helen's level needs to be a more senior level needs to be a conversation had with local schools to try and get us through the door with the right people. I mean, it's not just a police or community safety led message. There's some brilliant individuals who have been involved in gang culture and gang problems that have now sort of turned, and they've become sort of people who are really selling the message to not get involved in that sort of environment and not to carry weapons. So those people have been really effective, and I mentioned that violence reduction team that'll be working over the next few months, the next couple of years. They engage those people to come in and do bespoke talks to schools, and after incidents as well. We've got one of the schools that had an incident where in a week there was 3 children in different circumstances found to have weapons. They weren't open to us, they're now open to us. We've got a dialogue going, and that's really positive. So whilst the problem's been around for a while, it's early days, it is baby steps, but there's generally a better awareness now than there was when I came back here sort of 15, 16 months ago. We are in a better place.
Yeah, I can see that the primary schools are not really open about this talking. So some councils can help, like they can talk to primary school head teachers and making, because if we catch them before, so that they do realize carrying knife is not all those knife related, what can happen. So that'd be better. So if councillors and
most of us as councillors, in fact I'd say all of us, have at least one school governorship which we try to support. I'm going to admit, in all my years, I have never, ever discussed that with anybody in the school. But I also promise you that I will be doing next time, because I have really not made that logical leap.
I think also...
Sorry, the lady over here has
just going back to going into the secondary schools, as I say earlier on, we do have a massive issue of catching the teens, the young teens. It's disturbing when you're seeing 14, 15-year-olds being arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder locally. So it's not enough, and the LEAs have got to get involved, governors have got to get involved, parents and grandparents have got to get involved, because you know something, if your children are going on the buses and your grandchildren, you're warning them. And what do we say? Why aren't the schools telling you about this? Because theoretically, I only found out when we did the Safe Drive Stay Alive campaign for GMP at the Middleton Arena. It's too, like you mentioned before, it's too passionate, it's too scary. But if parents come forward and say, do you know something, I don't want to be scared, I want my children to know. They know, the streetwise. They're not as soft as what we're putting our teens out to be. If they can run around with knives in their pockets, smoking weed on e-scooters, who's kidding them? But it needs something that has got to be challenged with the local authorities and the schools and the governorship. Because these kids are far more clued up than what you think.
And it's not all that new. I mean, my two are 21 and 18, and both now tell me, because they would never have told me at the time, because they would have, for fear of what I might respond in, both had knives pulled on them. Both, at several occasions locally.
Can I just say, both my children are sat, well, two of my three children are sat here today, and all those two kids went to school on school buses. One of them was attacked daily by people on the school bus with aerosols, setting fire to them. Another one got set on fire in school and was in an exam, and then was told that she couldn't pass that exam because she stood up and turned around with her hair on fire, that you have caused a scene in school class and you now need to leave the school. By which point then, she'd been suspended and her dad was called into school. This is a vicious circle, and it's been going on for donkey's years.
Decades.
My eldest daughter that sat there is 31, coming up to 32. She was the one that was attacked. The other one is 25. She's the one that had her hair set on fire in school. And it's just a vicious circle all the time. Is there nobody that can actually turn around and say, right, enough is enough. This is what we're going to be doing. This is how it's going to be. You walk out of your front door at the age of 11 with a knife in your pocket. If you're not going to sit there and inform your children that that is wrong, it's not acceptable, and that there are processes that you are going to face. If it's not them that are going to face it, why can't the parents face it? Because we all did when we grew up.
I think you know, taking the incident at Goose Green, the following day we tasked people to have a Section 60 power, which we've been using quite a bit recently. It's quite a big power. We don't take it lightly. Going back to mention about data and other incidents, we use a collection of incidents to obviously allow us to consider that as an authority. It's superintendent now that gives it authority. And within about an hour of tasking a certain officer to the Goose Green area, we stopped somebody who was found with a knife, and they were locked up, no problem at all, and they got like 46 weeks in prison for that particular offence. So from a policing point of view, I can tell you that my style is quite robust. I will send people out, I will kick them out of the station. When we had the Section 60 powers the other week, it was like everyone's going out and everyone's getting stopped, and I make no apologies for that. Because if somebody stopped me and said, can I just check you over for a knife? No problem at all, I'm not carrying one, you know? And it's about changing cultural attitudes about those engagements with the police. So in particular now, the officers wear body-worn video. Every encounter must be on body-worn video. I would expect that. And that's to make sure that we are accountable for what we do and how we do it and how we engage. And there's a way in which we can ask people and gain people's support. So we've got a job to do, but people like me make sure that's done properly. And then in terms of what happens at school, that's for schools to deal with. And you know, I get your frustration. I've been at high school myself. We've all been at school at some point. And I saw things, and I know myself as an officer and as somebody who's a veteran, you know, I've seen things occurring that probably should have been reported as crimes. So we only see a small amount, it's like the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? So I'm not naive to sit here and say the Trafford numbers are brilliant, there's no problem. Beneath all that, I know there's a problem. I see it, I feel it, I worry about it myself when I go out. But the problem in Trafford is a lot smaller than other parts of GM and other parts of the country. They're lucky, but there's still a lot of work to do. And it's just having those conversations with schools, with the council, with councillors, as we are today, and those doors are gradually opening, and that's really, really good. And I think, again, going back to the leadership, we've got a different style, you know, we've got a different focus, and we've got a team now dedicated for knife crime in particular. And part of that, and part of the evidence base, will be engaged with professionals to drive those messages, because it's not all about stop search, it's about getting into primary schools, getting into secondary schools, getting into youth clubs, getting into certain occupations, you know, that might carry knives, you know, tradespeople carry knives. But that's an easy way to disguise it. So there's lots of different things that we come across that we can look at managing and seeking support from areas of the community.
The gentleman has a question, but I'm just conscious we actually have run out of time. It is 4. So if you want to ask your question, and then
it is quick. Just to say, in this transition period, I think the PTAs could play a major role in actually educating the children as they're about to make that transition.
And so what I wanted to also do is, obviously we had a couple of others, but I wanted to wrap it up because we have councillors of just one ward. However, I would imagine you have your own little circle of councillors and probably meet everybody else. What would be nice is for the councillors to have an internal discussion to see whether they can help, you know, almost kind of like a spider's web, reach out to the community, whether it's schools in primary or secondary, through PFAs, PTAs. How can we start sending messages out to the school communities about crime, about things not being cool, things having consequences, of how if you are being bullied, if you are being targeted, how do you address that issue? And if it's not just down to the police only to always be there everywhere, the councillors through your network, the parents through their networks, if you all can support us with that, what I would like is that if we can hold perhaps a separate session just with the councillors and have you all present, I'll be very happy to post out the meeting so that it's slightly smaller. We'll have it more, you know, kind of focused on the councillors and their role within the communities, and make sure that our concerns are partially also solved by yourselves, you know. I mean, we obviously have the police always coming to events. We would like the councillors to also start coming to events.
Especially from Broadheath.
We live here for God. Yeah. So is that something you all will be willing to take back and feedback to the remaining councillors of what happened here and what we would like your fellow councillors to get engaged with?
I think what I would like to offer at this stage, first of all, yes, our ward is a couple of miles down the road. What I would like to do is to potentially host that next meeting, okay, so we can coordinate that, and we can work together as councillors, okay, because I do work with Ashton on Mersey School, we work with local schools as well. So again, if it's a point where we can get a community link up, then we can coordinate. Again, we're just, you know, conduits. We are, you know, a small team that work together. Okay, so yeah,
yeah,
I'll be keen
absolutely.
to.
And we're all there to support you, but I think that was a very valid point raised. We don't get a lot of councillors being actively participating, at least in community safety areas, and your ward seems to be exceptional. So well done for your efforts.
Can you move to Brady?
I did have some slides on setting up Neighbourhood Watch. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I do appreciate everybody has a life beyond this meeting. What I will do is I will send out those slides through email to everybody. If you have any questions, please come back to me. I'll be more than happy to support you with yourself setting up schemes within your areas. One thing I would like to leave you with for your neighbourhoods, if you all have a running WhatsApp or want to create one, do set it up. Obviously talk to your neighbours, add them on, invite your PCSO, local PCSO to, I invited them to my house and I called all the residents to my place. Have that conversation about how to make your house and your area safer. The one thing we decided and agreed to do is, if there is a house alarm going off, if you can, please step out to check where that alarm is going off. If you can't, then at least do one thing. If it's in the middle of the night and you're fearful of getting out into the road, do switch on lights. The fact that all the house lights in that neighbourhood have suddenly started switching on is going to freak the burglars out. So try and do as much as you can as a community to work together. It is our house at the end of the day and our security at the end of the day. We need to take some responsibility. So I'll just leave you with that. There are safety kits over here. Thank you once again to everybody. Thank you to all the Be Safe, Feel Safe committee for all the tireless efforts. Thank you all.